Morning. Try this again. Thought I was recording. It wasn't. It's Friday, April 4th, 2025. I'm Larsa. It's Saturday, slow art day. Yeah. It's time to drink some skulls. Oh, I had crazy dreams this morning. I did. Crazy dreams. Dream about milk. Very weird. What I mean by dream about milk, I dreamed that I was on the Lucerne farm. I've never been. I have no idea what it's like. But that's where I was in this dream. We were like drinking milk, and I don't drink milk, right? I can put milk in things, but like I don't drink a glass of milk, right? Like, oh, I've never been a big fan of milk, right? I've never been a big fan of milk. It always kind of tastes like it's like spit to me, like it's thick, like spit. Like I don't know. So I was like drinking cow spit, but like on cereal or in oatmeal. Well, maybe I'll make oatmeal for breakfast. I'm gonna have breakfast today. I'll make oatmeal. It sounds good. Oatmeal with a big old chunk of butter on top and some milk. Yeah, sounds good. Some blackberries. I have some blackberries down there. I think that's what we'll have. I think we'll have oatmeal for breakfast today. Yeah, I made pasta last night for dinner. I made eggplant and Kalamata olive sauce with rosemary and oregano. It was good. It was. Fusilli. It was on fusilli. Yeah. It was good. Yeah. Yeah. Going to the gallery today for public hours. We'll see how that goes. If I have anybody come in at all, or if I have homeless people come in, which, it depends. I'd say I've had a lot of homeless people come in, and half of them I've had interesting conversations with, about the art, and then the other half have been weird, and a little bit creepy, Anyway, we'll see. Yeah. Yeah, oatmeal for breakfast sounds good. I was thinking, like, what am I gonna make? Like, should we have avocado toast? Oh, I only have 4 eggs down there right now. There's probably eggs up there. He's only been bringing the eggs in like once a week. While it's cool outside, that's okay, but he can't be doing that in the summer. No. Must bring in the eggs every day when it starts getting warmer. It's all the tariff stuff. It's like, everybody's like all upset and up in arms about it. I don't know. I guess we're gonna say, it's like, people are gonna have to change budgeting strategies. Make different choices at the grocery store. I was watching a news clip where they were talking about things that were going to be affected more than others, whatever. Yeah, and the stuff that's affected is olive oil and canned goods, stuff that's made overseas, right? But that like produce and dairy and meat that's produced here in the U.S. isn't. There's not, it's not going to really be affected. So people who eat a lot of processed foods are going to be affected, right? And they say, oh, that's low income people. Well, I suppose if you're buying your groceries at Dollar Tree or at Walmart or at Target, that's going to be an issue. You're buying a lot of processed foods. But you don't have to buy processed foods. Geez, you can cook. A lot of people don't have those basic cooking skills. Or, like all that processed stuff. I don't know. Yeah, it takes more time to cook dry beans, to soak and cook dry beans than it does to get canned beans. Or processed canned beans. What I mean by processed canned beans, already seasoned, right? You watch a lot of, there's a lot of cooking videos on YouTube. Kind of like crock pot meals, and they look disgusting. Or these like chafing dish baked things where it's like, watch what I'm going to do. I'm putting a can of Hormel chili, and a can of Hormel this, and a can of that, and a tub of sour cream. And I'm just like, if I ate like that, I'd be like 800 pounds. And like, oh, and here's a package of processed, meat on top of that. It's just like, ew. Ew. A lot of people eat that way. A lot of people eat that way. Mm. Mm. I'm gonna go buy myself a sandwich. For me to have, make nice. We'll have oatmeal here at the house. We'll have oatmeal for breakfast today. Or maybe I'll make blackberry pancakes. I'll ask Omar which you would prefer, oatmeal or pancakes for breakfast today. I suppose there's stuff I could take. There's really not enough pasta to split in half. There's enough pasta for him. There's like 1.5 servings down there. I'll let him have that, and I'll take some. I'll take some of the couscous with me. Oh, I have a couscous mix down there in the cupboard. I can make in my rice steamer at the gallery. I can have that. Yeah. That's what I'll do. No, I don't even have to put it in the rice steamer. That real fine French couscous, I can just boil water and pour it over it like ramen noodles in a cup, right? It's so fine. Maybe I'll do that. Yeah. That's probably what I'll do. I think I have an orange in the refrigerator. The gallery. I have one more orange left there. I have that orange. An orange. And I have couscous. I have tofu down there. I could bake some tofu too for some protein. Anyway. Anyway. Groceries. Groceries. Ugh, sticks. I just washed all the bedding. Protein is damn sticks. 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 In my bed. Oh. Oh my god. Sticks. In my bed. I don't know. Like, you know, the way things been going. The past few years, it's just like, you know, people are saying things are bad now. Things have been bad for a long time. And it's just like, what are you going to do? Ooh, what am I going to do at the gallery today? I'll work on the next magazine. Yeah, I'll work on that. Probably. Yeah, I have a email I need to send today. Maybe I'll make a phone call. We'll see. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway. Oh, so yesterday, I don't understand. Like my neighbors, they use Nextdoor, the Nextdoor site, to follow me around and bully me. And this has been going on since Oakland. So like I've talked about this before about how Nextdoor was opened in beta in a few cities first, and Oakland was one of them. Nextdoor was funded by federal tax dollars, and it was made to be a tool for the FBI. And there were officials from the company that came around and explained this in the communities where it was launched in beta, and they handpicked people from neighborhoods to be moderators for the neighborhoods for the zip codes. So I went to these meetings. That's why I know this about this company and about this platform. And it's part of the reason why I don't use it. Anyway, the woman that was chosen in Jingletown neighborhood, her name was Cynthia, and she hated me. She hated me because she over on their side of the neighborhood, Jingletown was kind of cut in half, and the side that we lived on, where the cotton mill was, and it was like old Jingletown, where the families lived that founded the neighborhood. Right? They went to the church, Mary Help of Christians, blah blah blah. We lived on that side. Well, we were also in between Jingletown and Fruitvale, right? Because we were up against the tracks. And like, so people that were over in the newer side of Jingletown that had all the apartments and things in it, right? It was like the second phase Jingletown, and where most of the art stuff was. Cynthia was the queen bee over there. And she did all the organizing and everything, and the white elephant sale in the neighborhood, and blah, 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 blah. So she didn't like me. I don't know. They thought that I ran F3. I did not run F3. F3 existed at the cotton mill long before I got there. The first year we were at the cotton mill, we ponied in $700 for the first event that we participated in for stuff, right? And it kind of reinvigorated, I guess that reinvigorated the event. Um, and it started paying for itself again right after that. They took a $5 donation at the door. Well, I wasn't the queen of F3. Those people didn't like me either, right? It was awful. So anyway, I started getting bullied on Nextdoor because I was putting my events on Nextdoor, and I had events for Clock Tower Studio Gallery. Like when the people on the F3 board stopped talking to me because Omar and I didn't have the money to keep giving them, right, for stuff. They just wanted money from us, and then they wanted to tell me what to do. I'm like, if I'm giving you money, then I'm going to do what I'm going to want to do, right? And there were a bunch of things about the event that I was like, why are we hiring security from Alameda Island instead of hiring security from here in Oakland? Why are we doing business with these other businesses that aren't in Oakland? Why aren't we, doing Oakland first? Why are we pulling performers from outside of Alameda to come in here to do these shows? And so I was recruiting local talent, and it was being well received by the city, right? But it wasn't well received by the uppity people that lived in and around the cotton mill. Oh, the trade. Thank you. So Cynthia had this group of friends. She was older than me. Cynthia was probably like in her late 50s. And I was in my 30s, right? And she had this group of, old biddy friends. And they started like harassing me. And there was this one woman in particular. Her name was PJ Callahan. And I met her at Jan's studio, Jan's gallery, Greyloft. And Jan showed my work a couple times. Well, PJ did, she collected like old stamps and made these like collage cards, and stationery and stuff with these old stamps and things, like postage stamps kind of thing. Like it was stuff like that. And they were kind of interesting. She had some it wasn't big fine art, but they were interesting note cards and postcards and things. I bought some stuff from her. That's how I met her. And I don't know what it was about me. I don't know what I did to her. I have no idea what I did to this woman. No idea what I did to this woman. But she starts bullying me on Nextdoor. So, I'm posting my events because I was doing rotating exhibits in my space, Clock Tower Studio Gallery, which was my live work. I lived there, and I had my studio in there, and then I had gallery space, and I was showing not just my work, I was showing other people's work too. This is part of why I don't show other people's work anymore, because it was horrendous. So, but I was doing quarterly rotating shows. In the city, at Pro Arts Gallery, they were stealing my show themes and doing shows at the Pro Arts Gallery. They wouldn't show my work, but they were bringing in other people and using my curation concepts at the Pro Arts Gallery. Oh, there was a big fallout about that. They finally they when they kicked everybody out of there, they encouraged me to apply for that job, and I did. Anyway, well, let me get there. So anyway, I'd have my events posted, right? And then I was doing improv. I was in an improv troupe, and we'd have shows, and so I would post on Nextdoor when and where we were having our shows. Well, this PJ Callahan, she was like, I'm sick, and she posted tomorrow, Larissa, nobody cares about your events. We're sick and tired of seeing your events. You post too much and blah blah. And I'm like, this is what this woman was saying. She was like mad that I was having events. She's like, this site is for public safety. I'm like, this site is for community use. And besides that, it was pretty easy to use, and you could mute out anybody you didn't want to see. So I posted to her. I said, look, I understand if you didn't understand how at the meeting when they told you how to use the site, because they went through all of this stuff, and she was at the meeting sitting with Cynthia. And so I explained to her, I said, just go up to your tab, and you can pull down, you can mute me so you don't have to see my posts. Well, when I said this to her publicly, then it was like all out war, and they started spreading rumors that that I was drunk at events and like causing trouble and all that. Like it was insane. And there was a woman that had a gallery. Well, I wasn't. Jeez. No, I wasn't. Um, I walked around with my cup with whatever it was I was drinking and kept it with me so that I wouldn't get roofied, because I got roofied a number of times. Because they tried to say, look, she always has a cup in her hand. If I had a beverage, which most people did at those events of any kind, I kept it with me. Because like I said, I'd been roofied and I was assaulted more than once in that neighborhood, in that building where I lived. So it was just like I couldn't do anything right. And there was a woman that had a gallery downstairs, float gallery. Her name was Allison Walton. Awful woman. But she was mad that I had a gallery. And I had offered to her, because I was doing an e-newsletter, I said, I said, let me know when your events are so we can try to kind of, if she was going to do openings, I said, we can coordinate when we have openings. That way when people come down here, it's not just for one, there's more. And so it's more of a draw. And like, I thought, hey, yeah, that's nice. Well, she didn't want to have anything to do with that. And, um, she was buddy with Cynthia. Her and Cynthia were, you know, Butch Patrol. Butches on patrol. That's what they were. Butches on patrol. And they were just horrible to me. They were awful. Spread all these awful rumors about me. And then, like I said, I was roofied and assaulted more than once in that building. So Cynthia, after I told PJ how to block me or mute me on the site publicly, she then said that I was causing problems in the community, and she suspended my use of Nextdoor, because that's part of what the moderator was supposed to do, right? Not well, there were other things too. There were so the neighborhood was originally a Black and Latino neighborhood. And the majority of the people that still lived, the original residents, original families that still lived in the neighborhood, were Latino families that had hung on, right? That went to the church that was in the neighborhood there. Most of the Black families have been pushed out of the houses. I know this because I happened to invite somebody to come perform at the cotton mill who when she got Joy on, when she got up, she's like, my grandma, the house right across the street was my grandma's house. And I was like, oh my God. Oh my God. So then she's the one who taught. And so I did a little more research. Well, there was one Black family in the neighborhood still. And they lived in the house that was right next to the 1080 lofts. So like we were cotton mill, and then you went around the cul-de-sac out towards 23rd, and there was the 1080 lofts, and then then there were houses. It was the first house after the 1080 lofts. Still had a Black family that lived in it. And the guy, he was a single older Black man who worked as a mechanic on the other side of the train tracks. And I know because I would see him every day in his mechanic's uniform with his lunchbox, climb over the wall and cross the tracks and go into the mechanic shop that was just over the tracks there. And then every day he'd come back over at in the evening, climb back up over the fence, because otherwise he'd have to like go. It was like a 3 mile walk, right? And there used to be a tunnel that you could go under the tracks there, but there were so many rapes in that tunnel that they closed off the tunnel, right? So anyway, watch this poor guy every day go to he had an angel trumpet bush in his front yard. It was real pretty. Because I used to walk in the neighborhood. So there's this one Black family, and he had two. I don't know if they were nephews or sons or what. They were adults, two adult. They were all related. They all looked alike. The two guys looked alike, and they looked like the guys. I'm guessing they were his sons, and they used to come over on the weekends to their dad's house because I'd see them. Well, these guys, when they walk through the neighborhood, I don't know where they live. They must have lived like a neighborhood over or what. I don't know. But sometimes they'd come over in a car and sometimes they'd walk into the neighborhood. Well, when these guys would walk through the neighborhood, the people over on the other side of Jingletown on next door would talk about the shitbirds walking down the street. Well, there was a group from over in Fruitvale who was robbing everyone over in Jingletown. And I know because they stole I had an adult trike and I saw the guy riding it the one day. Wasn't these guys that were this guy's son who these guys this guy's sons who this guy who lived in the neighborhood, right? But whenever this guy's sons came through the neighborhood, they the chatter on next door, and I called them out on it. I said, "Dude, their father fucking lives here, you know? You guys are being racist. Black people live here in this city." Well, then all the shit hit the fan. Then all the shit hit the fan. They were all like, "Oh no, we're liberals. We're not racist." I'm like, "Okay, okay. You're living in apartments that were once all occupied by black families here in the city. The cotton mill wasn't. The cotton mill was a mill and it had been renovated into lofts." Nobody wanted to live in it. Everybody said, "Oh, if you live in the cotton mill, you're crazy." That was like the joke, right? Anyway, oh, so that's where all of the hate on next door against me started. And I was like, fine. So Cynthia was like, "You can come back to next door." I'm like, "No, it's okay. I don't want anything to do with your community." Well, that made them mad too. So then the chatter about me continued on next door, but I was like, I'm not even looking at it because like I'm not interacting with these people. And there was the Open Studios event, right, in Oakland, and Jan and Fernando had Fernando Reyes. Love his paintings. I love his paintings. I love his work. Um, they had been the ones who had organized for the Jingletown neighborhood with Pro Arts. Well, I'd been doing a lot of volunteering with Pro Arts. Oh, Pro Arts, that bitch that was there. I'm not talking about the woman, whoever's there now. I don't know whoever's there now that I'm talking about at this time. Margot, her name is Margot Dunlap. They fired her, and she and I had it out with her in public. She was such a bitch. Um, I'll talk about that too. Anyway, they were like, "We don't want to do it anymore. Somebody needs to take it over," and they talked me into doing it. I was like, "Okay." So I set up an online website registration um, for the neighborhood, right? Well, people were irritated about this. They're like, "No, you have to come over to all." I'm like, "I have been over to all your studios. None of you have been over to my studio, kind of thing." It was one of those things. Um, and they uh, we made a brochure and everything with a map and all this stuff. There's us, and uh, anyway, it was awful. It was awful. It was awful, and I said, "I don't want to do this anymore." After the I did for two. I did it for 2 years. Did I do it for 2 years? I think I did it for 2 years over there, and it was just such a pain in the ass. I'm like, "You guys have to find somebody else. I'm not doing this over here. You guys are awful." Because like some of the businesses paid and some of them didn't pay. There was like this, "Oh, I've been here the longest," and lots of people come to see me. So Jan never made me pay. I'm like, "Well, that's why Jan is having trouble making her rent because she's been paying for all your shit. I'm not paying for your shit. You got to pay." There's this guy, Bill Silveria. He got mad when I told him he had to pay to have his ad in the brochure. Like, "No, you got to pay." He's like, "I've never had to pay before." I'm like, "Oh, you got to pay now." Jan said I didn't have to pay. I'm like, "Well, Jan's not doing it now. I am." Like, yeah, no, everybody's to pay. Everybody's to chip in, right? So that's why they hated me over there. That's why. That's why. Yeah. Yeah, so Margot Dunlap, she had been using my, I used to do a book that went with each show, right? Like there was like a explanation, had the bios of all of the artists and had the price lists and had the concept of the show outline and all that shit. And she was using my concepts for pro arts shows, but she wouldn't partner with me or she wouldn't show my work. And I was doing all this volunteer work for them. That's when I was doing Art Break Day for them. That's when I worked with all those homeless people. Oh my gosh. Art Break Day down in Frank H. Ogawa Square. Oh, what a fucking joke that was. So she and I had bumped heads over this. And finally I called her out. One time I was in the gallery for one of their openings, right? And when I got to the show and saw the opening, it wasn't just a copy of one of my shows. She had somebody who had work that was almost identical, like that was very similar to my work. And I said something to her about it. I said, really? I said, you had to pull somebody in from the other side of the country? You couldn't just shown my work? And she got all flustered over this. Well, I was irritated then, right? Because I'd been doing all of this volunteer work for them and they weren't supporting me. They were supposed to be pro arts, the gallery to support the city, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I live in the city. I'm here volunteering. What the fuck? So then for the last year that I organized open studios for Jingletown, I volunteered at Pro Arts because Pro Arts was the hub for organizing open studios. I volunteered for the opening event. So I didn't have to pay the $50 to get in. Yeah, and then on top of it, they were charging me all this money for shit. And she assigned me to work at the drink table. I'm like, okay. And we were charging for drinks, right? Like, so I was money handling. She says to me, and this other woman, and then she was serving a copy of a mixed drink that I served at one of my events recently. Like I had done these 2 mixed drinks, these cocktails, because I was doing these like sit down events. And she was serving what was on my menu. So she comes up to me and she's like, this is before everything opens. She's like, so we are working tonight, so we are not drinking. I'm like, okay, all right. Because I thought she was telling like all of the staff, like I was like, all right, this is a city event. I can see that if we're working that we're okay, whatever. So I had work, of course, because my gallery was open for open studios, and I'm pouring drinks, selling drinks for people, whatever. And she comes up and asks me to pour her a drink, and I'm like, excuse me, I thought we weren't drinking. So it was a mixed drink. The alcohol was separate. It wasn't, there was the picture of the mix and then the alcohol. And I put in like just a splash of the vodka and I hand it to her. She's like, she takes a sip. She goes, I don't think there's any alcohol in this, Larissa. I said, I thought we weren't drinking tonight. I thought we were working. And she was like, oh, no, I just meant you. I'm like, me? She wasn't telling everybody. She just told me that I wasn't allowed to drink. Like, what? And this was because Allison Walton and this Cynthia bitch had been telling everybody that I was drunk at events, and I wasn't. Right? I just carried my cup around with me so I wouldn't be roofied. It was ridiculous. It was absolutely ridiculous. So she's like, do you want to talk about this in the back room? I said, no, let's talk about it right here. And I read her the fucking riot act. And she was like, oh! I said, telling staff that they're not allowed to drink, then you're going to walk around and flaunt that you're drinking at an event. I said, you're the one that's on payroll. Everybody else here is a volunteer and this is a party. I said, and she's like, well, why do you need to walk? I said, I have work here. I said, this is a networking event for me too. And she was like, oh my God. And I mean, I read her the riot act. Well, she got fired about a month or two after that. Right. And when they went out for recruitment, because it was a city position, when they went out for recruitment, I was approached and told, it was going to be a panel interview. And I was asked to please submit my resume for it. And I did. And they invited me in for a panel interview. And I turned it down because they had posted publicly who was being interviewed. And one of the people that was being interviewed was a relative of Gene Kwan. And I knew from my experience working for the city of Sunnyvale that they always have one person that they want to hire, and then they bring in other people because they have to show due diligence of searching for the best candidate. And so they'll bring in other candidates that are qualified, right? This is what they did to me in the city of Sunnyvale. Like they have that when they pushed me out. So I knew that they were going to hire Gene Kwan's I think it was her niece, for the position because they had that was like the consolation prize for Gene Kwan because Gene Kwan had been pushed out by the people who by the Teamsters and the other people who backed Libby, and that was all a shit show too. That was all smoke and mirrors. Gene Kwan should have won that election. Um, and I had supported Gene Kwan. Anyway, so when they said, "Oh yeah, you can come in for the panel," I was like, "No, it's all right," because I was like, I don't want to go through. It's a pain in the ass. It's a lot of work to do that, and I knew that I didn't have a shot at the job. I knew I didn't have a shot at the job. I knew they were going to give it, and they did. They gave it to Gene Kwan's niece. That's who they gave the job to. So like, fucking a, fucking a. When in Saratoga, like they looked me up on Nextdoor, and um, I guess they never deleted the in Oakland. They're like, oh, here you are in Oakland. I'm like, yeah, haven't been in Oakland in a long time. And they started bullshit about me on Nextdoor in Saratoga and started bullying me on Nextdoor in Saratoga too. They're using Nextdoor here to watch me come and go, and that's how like so recently the bullying is down at the end of the street where there's no cell reception. There's pockets on the street where there is cell reception and where there isn't, and so they keep track of when I'm coming and going. And then yesterday there was a woman from John Hope's house like sped up to block me from being able to come up the street. Now I'm not going to back up out into the street, and the law is that the person coming down the mountain has to back up, not the person coming in off the main street, right? So she did eventually back up. She did and let me pass. But that's how they're tracking me is through Nextdoor when I'm coming and going. And there's a couple other people like the guy Charlie down the street that has those fruit trees. Uh-huh. Yeah. They watch when I come and go. There's fucking people around here have nothing better to do. All right. Community policing. Oh my gosh. Terrible Larissa doing horrible shit. Yeah. I'm doing horrible shit. Gotta watch that Larissa. Oh my god, she's got in trouble. Fucking assholes with nothing better. Old fucking hippies with nothing better to do with their time. Yeah. So I know that's what's going on. But yeah, that's that PJ Callahan. That's where it all started. PJ Callahan. Like I said, I bought stuff from her. I bought a bunch of note cards and postcards and I send them to people. I bought stuff from her. I don't know why she hated me. I don't know. She was tall. She kind of looked like Mink Stole when they made Mink Stole look all dorky. She did. She looked like a real Mink. She looked like a dorky Mink Stole. She even had those little glasses that like Mink Stole wore. She had her hair cut real short, and she dyed it this gaudy. It was an awful brassy red. It looked like her hair was probably white, right? Like she was gray. She she looked like Mink Stole. She did. This woman, that's what this woman looked like, except she had a worse neck. Oh, yeah. I don't know why she hated me. I have no idea. I have no idea what I did to PJ Callahan. I have no idea. But that's where it all started. Yeah. I just got around town. News got around town that Omar and I were the ones that put the money back into F3 because F3 had been off the table for a couple years because nobody in the building either had or wanted to put the money in Pony Up for the advertising and stuff for the print because that's what the money went towards that we put into it was the postcards and the advertising. That's what we paid for. Yeah. So I guess the news got around that Omar and I paid for that. And then it was like, oh, they got money. Blah, blah, blah. We didn't have money. We didn't have money. It was an investment in what I was doing, right? Art show. Yeah. And then performers were like, well, why don't we get paid? I'm like, we don't have money to pay anyone, you know? Like, I'm not getting paid. I don't get paid. I don't have money to pay everyone. Nope. Yeah. Yeah, no, for F3, the work that I did was I booked the stage. That's what I did. I recruited performers and booked the stage and curated the show, the performance part of the show. That's what I did. hmm And I brought in any of the talent that was booked for the shows that was from out of town. Those came at the behest or at the direction, like it was sent to me by other people. But everybody that I booked personally, well, no, that's not totally true. I brought in folks from Sebastopol for one show. Yeah, that was a good show. Oh, and I brought in Ronnie's band too, a punk band. I brought them in. Um, that was a good show too. But the majority of the people that I brought in for performance were all local. You know, all of the spoken word and poetry and R&B and rap. All that I brought in from Oakland. Those were all people that I recruited and met out at events, right? That I was going to, that I was participating in, the open mics and stuff. Oh my god. I never went to Lawrence's Halloween party. I never did. He invited me a couple years to come. I never went. I should have gone. Oh, Styles, I should have gone to your Halloween party. Sorry, I didn't. There was reason though. I can't remember. There was a reason why I didn't go. We weren't available. Like because I was doing improv and stuff, and we had Halloween shows. And that's why I didn't go because I had other performance obligations. Yeah. Anyway, I'm just an awful person. That's all. I'm just awful, awful person. Nobody likes me. Everybody hates me. Nobody likes me. I'm an awful person. Terrible. I do terrible things. I guess. I don't know. Fucking next door. I don't use it.